In this video, I'm going to show you how to do a simple border. I've become quite obsessed with them, and really I've learned that there are a lot of capabilities which aren't really evident from the existing tutorials. To start a border, you go to Design, and you skip down all of the usual stuff to open or start a new file, and you go down to Border, New Border. First you see the border area right here, and you have the border drawing area right here. You have to start a design on the left side, and you have to end it on the right side. The preview area will be used once we have a border started. Notice that over here on the right hand side, only some tools are available. We have a connection tool, an outline tool, a column with pattern, and a regular column tool. For a simple one-pass border, I'm going to show you a very simple one using only connections. I'm going to enlarge the screen, the border area, and I do this with my mouse wheel. You can also do it by using the magnifying icon. So I've already picked the connection tool. I can start my border anywhere along this edge, and I'm just drawing a very simple border to help you understand how this works. And I'm going to try to make it roughly symmetrical, and I'm going to end not quite where it needs to go, just to show you what happens. I press enter to accept this, and you can see now that on the bottom it shows the iterations of the border. As you can see, there's a gap right here, and that would stitch as a jump, which we don't really want. So I'm going to edit my design going by Control E, and I'm going to look at that last node, and I can see that it isn't in the same location as the other one. So I'm going to move it up here and try to get it right on. Sometimes it helps to click on the snap to node. I'm also going to just fix up and maybe put a few curves in this so it's a little bit nicer of a border. And we'll just put a few nice curves into it. And there, that looks a little bit better. Now I'm going to accept that. And now you can see that it looks much nicer on the bottom. It isn't a perfect join yet. That still is a little bit off. And sometimes it helps to bring down a guide, a ruler. And let's just edit it again and see if we can fix that node a bit better. Okay, it looks like they're really close. Okay, that should do it. Yes, that looks pretty good. All right, we've made our border, and now we need to generate stitches. Control G does that. And now I can go look in the 3D, and that's what the border looks like, stitched out. And on the bottom, you can see the line view. We can simulate the stitching by just pressing Sim, and I'm going to go over to 10. And if it's stitching correctly, it should go right around, and yes, that all works well. Okay, I'm going to go to normal view now, and once we've got a design that we like, then we need to do a few things to fix it up and save it. Here is we've done this all in one line. I can right click and get parameters, or I can go Control P. Okay, there is my general parameters area. The shield is the global parameters, and I'm going to change the maximum stitch length to 1 because 0.5 is very tiny. And in this area, nothing else has to be changed. However, in the comment area, I'm going to put the design name. So I'm going to call it Simple Dash Border. Okay, and then I'm going to apply, and I'm going to go to OK. All right, so we've got our border in terms of the parameters. The other parameters that are there in the general area, the stitch length, I'm also going to change to 1, and I'm going to check that and apply and OK. All right, now I go to save the border, and in order to this I go Design, go down to Border, Save Border As. This is the general border area that's already a file in the Embird program area. I would rather save it in a separate border area, so I have used a different directory, and I'm going to go to my Quick Access. I keep all my designs together here, and I've made a border design file area. Oops. Okay, and I'm calling it Simple Border. Okay, and save it. I had already done this before, so I'm going to save it again. Okay, that border is complete, and now I'm going to show you how to use it. So I go to Design. When I open it, it's going to just close the border. Okay, and we've already saved it, so I don't need to do it again. Now, I have made a test file which consists of just a few curved lines. So it's called Test Curves, and I'm going to open that up. So all I did was make some straight lines by using, you have to use the outline tool, and if I go click and hold down Control, I get a straight across line, and then accept that. And all I did was edit those by pulling them down into a curve. But I'll leave one straight so you can see what happens. Oops, escape. Okay, that's my test file. So once you have your borders, you want to see how they're actually working, because it's fairly easy, I've learned, to have some mistakes in how they stitch out. So in order to do that, every time we use them, we have to actually load the borders. So we go to User Editors and click that. This is our user editor area, and the borders section is the rope here. So I click on the rope, and you can see we have 5 borders that we can load at one time. So we're just going to load the one border we made. So I go to Open the File. Okay, it goes right to my borders rather than the default. But you have to be careful here, because depending on how you have yours set up, if it goes to the default and you've put your border there, that's fine, but otherwise it might be in a different border. Okay, so I want to load the simple borders, so I go down to S, and there's the simple border that we made. Notice that I have iconizer, so I can see a little picture of it. So I'm going to open that up. And you can't see it because that border is blue, so I will deal with that in another video. So I'm going to go OK. So now my border is ready to use, although you can't see it yet. So I'm going to go over to the, oh, that first line is on the bottom. I'm just going to move that up to the top. So I like to keep my sides in the actual order that I see them on the design. Alright, so I'll click the first one here, and we'll go to Parameters, so right click or Control P. And now this is where we start to use our border. So I click Border here, and then in the drop down menu, the border that I just loaded, which is called Simple Border, and we would be able to see the picture if I hadn't have done it in blue. So we click that, and then this is the default size, 5 millimeters by 5 millimeters, which is very small. So I'm going to just click that so you can see what it looks like, and we get a little tiny border. If I go Generate Stitches in 3D mode, we can see what that looks like. It's very, very tiny. So generally I don't use the default when I'm doing these borders. I usually end up making them larger. They can be as large as 25 millimeters by 25 millimeters. Okay, let's look at the same border, and we're going to put it in a different size this time. So we've already loaded it, so I right click, Parameters or Control P, and I have to pick the border again, so I go Border and then drop down, and I'm going to pick the simple border again. But this time I'm going to change the size. So the width, this time I'm going to go for, let's say, let's go 15 millimeters. That should be a little bit bigger. And then down here, I click on the arrow and I can set how wide it's going to be. And I'll do 15 again. It's a little bit misleading because it says width here, but it really is the vertical height. So you have to kind of get used to that. All right, we're ready to apply it, and I'm going to go apply, and notice I get the same border, but it's much bigger now. And I'll go OK now. And in 3D, we can see it. I'll just go to 3D. And you can see how much bigger it is. I could do other outline shapes. In commercial designs, you often see a circle. But anyway, this is how you actually load your border. Once you're satisfied with that, you can save it in your studio file. So I'm keeping mine in the borders just to keep it all straight. So I'll just call it test 1 for now. Save. And now I'm ready to go into Embird Editor. So I go up to the little zigzag, which is compile, and put in Embird Editor. And I use VP format, and I'm just going to leave all that the same. Okay, there's my actual border. Now you can see jumps from here to here. I really like to take out trims because I find they just make a mess. So I remove my trim codes. So in this case, I'm going to remove all the trim codes. So that looks pretty good. And I usually simulate it and make sure that it's going to stitch out okay. As I say, this little patch here would be very, very small stitches, so I probably wouldn't make it that small. Alright, so it looks like it works okay. And then once you're satisfied with that, you would just save it. So this is a very, very simple border. I used connections because later on I'm going to show you how to do a 2-pass border, and they are much easier if you use connections rather than outlines. So I'll show you one more 1-pass border in the next video. And as I say, I've become obsessed with these, but there isn't very much good documentation on them. So I'm hoping I can take you through some of the learning challenges that I've faced. Thanks a lot, and it's bye from Shelley at Riverly Studio.